Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Enough. A little 2-in-1 week for you guys. It's a special week, though. We're nearing up on the Nativity celebration, which is wild because it feels like we just started the preparations for it and just started our little Reclaim the Season just a few weeks ago, doesn't it? Or just a few days ago. It has been a few weeks, but
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought this would go by not as fast as it did.
yeah.
Now we're on the last episode, which is crazy because I've really enjoyed our topics, and now we're kind of at the ultimate theme event of this whole process, which is the actual nativity. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey. I think this little series that we've done has challenged me, like spiritually. I feel that I've actually kind of grown a bit closer to the faith and to God throughout this whole series, and I hope that you have, Peggy, and all you've listened, have gone through that with us. Obviously, there's things I can have done better, and I'm sure you guys could all say the same thing. But I think throughout this whole journey in this kind of season, it's super fun to like see the church kind of like gradually like have this huge buildup. At the beginning, you start hearing a few of the hymns of the nativity season. You're like, oh, I remember those from last year. Like, oh, these are super pretty. And then as we keep going, like, I don't know, it just feels like there's this big buildup, and then we're finally here. And I don't know, I just love it. I think like it does the same thing for like Pascha and for the Dormition Fast in the summer. But I think it's just one of the coolest things about the church, how we kind of just go in these waves.
Yeah, definitely. I think that in the church we really get that build up. While, for example, I think like people outside of the church, when it's Christmas season, they know it's Christmas season because there's more Christmas songs and it gets colder. But I don't know. I live in the South and it did not get colder. It's like 65 degrees today, and so I don't even think I would know that Christmas was coming if I wasn't going to church and realizing, oh my gosh, it's building up. We're getting down the last couple days here, so it's really nice to have the way that the church sets us up for this feast, which is just so great.
For sure, yeah. And we have a few hymns today of like the season that we kind of wanted to share. The first one has been sung since the beginning of the Nativity, and it reads, "Today the Virgin bears him who is transcendent, and the earth presents the cave to him who is beyond reach. Angels along with shepherds glorify him. The Magi make their ways to him by a star, for a new child has been born for us, the God before all ages." That's like one of my favorite hymns. Whenever I hear that in church, I just like have a little smirk on my face. I'm like, okay, we're back. We're back. I don't know.
It's so beautiful. I think it paints such a beautiful and vivid picture of the nativity as we know it. I don't know about your church, but I know in the past we have like little nativity scenes. Everyone dresses up as an angel or a magi or someone, and you really hear that in the hymn, which is great. I feel myself as someone who's going towards the star, going towards Christ, and I think when we start hearing that in the nativity season, you can feel that it's like the start of the journey.
Yeah, it's cool because this is like, in a sense, like the truth of Christmas music. We have like the Jingle Bells and the Here Comes Santa Claus, but it's like in reality, this is our Christmas music. And like the like little things that you kind of hear that resemble church and like the secular music, you find them so like explicitly like in our hymns. The Magi make their way to him by a star. The angels along with shepherds glorify him. All those things you find in like the secular word, but their truth comes from the church because these things actually happened. And that's what this season is all about, is to remember and to commemorate all of the beautiful miracles that the God worked up until his incarnation through Jesus Christ, and then obviously after through his ministry, his death, resurrection, and ultimate ascension, and second coming.
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful to hear that in the hymns. And I think we've talked about hymns before, but just, you know, the Orthodox Church, we involve so many of our different senses, and we don't just like read these stories in the Bible or, wherever we might read them in, church tradition. We get to hear them in the liturgy, and it's a whole other thing to hear someone, chant these hymns and these stories. It adds a whole other layer, I feel like, to the whole event, the whole feast.
Yeah, the whole shebang. Oh, I like what you're saying though. Like it involves all of the senses, and it just one more sense to use is our eyes. When we look at the icon of the nativity, there's so much like theology involved in that one depiction of the birth of Christ, and it's so beautiful. We kind of touched on it last week where we were talking about the swaddling cloths that Jesus was wrapped in, looked on like his burial shrouds, and the manger he was put into also looks like a coffin. because, you know, he was born to then die and save us. And there's so much stuff. I encourage all of you guys to go look into the icon of the nativity and look at the theology behind how it's written and stuff. But it's all throughout our church in this nativity season. It's just kind of all embedded into one because it happened so that the next event could happen, you know?
Definitely. And one of the central, you know, points of that icon, you know, of course we have Christ in the manger, but then we also have the Virgin Mary, which is so beautiful because it is really through her that we were able to have, you know, God become incarnate on earth. And, you know, it shows her
Right.
importance having her right in the center in that, you know, the place where he was born. And that kind of takes us to another hymn that we have. It's actually the Apolitikion of the forefeast of the Nativity. So a few days before the actual feast, we have this hymn. And one line I just wanted to say today was, her womb hath proved a true spiritual paradise, wherein the divine and saving tree is found. And as we eat thereof, we shall all live and shall not die as did Adam. I There's something about that where when I read it, I stopped in my tracks. I just think it's really amazing to think how, I mean, number one, we have God who comes into the world as we have all come into the world as like children in our mother's wombs. I think that's mind blowing. I don't, it's hard to even imagine how God could do that. But we have the, you know, the beautiful feast of the Annunciation, which happens exactly 9 months before Christmas on the liturgical calendar, which is beautiful. And then to really hear, you know, that in the womb, that's like where the divine and saving tree is found, which is Christ. And if we eat thereof, we shall all live. I mean, it
Yeah.
draws in elements of, you know, taking communion and really getting to partake of the body and blood. And I mean, I don't know. It's something about that hymn just gets me, I think.
No, yeah, no, it's super beautiful, and it ties into what you're saying about communion and things that um, we have today within the church, but it also ties in to things that happen in the Old Testament and the Genesis accounts because it compares Christ to Adam, I believe, if I heard that right, and the womb to like the life-giving tree, and the nativity in a sense is the like rewind of the whole human path. You know, we are created in the garden to be in paradise with God forever, and then we failed through Adam, but through Christ and the nativity and through the Theotokos, this starts to get erased, and like we start to regain what we were supposed to have, and through Christ we can now attain the promised kingdom in the garden, you know? And so it's all beautiful how the hymnography of the church takes a little bit of this and a little bit of that and puts it all together into one, because you could look at it so many different ways, but it still kind of relates to what had happened in the past.
Yeah. Christ really gives us the ultimate opportunity, I feel, in his, you know, nativity and his birth, because, you know, we are given so many opportunities in our life to turn towards Christ for eternal life, but it is in this moment where he comes, you know, to earth to be with us, and then eventually to be crucified and resurrected, that we even get the opportunity for that, which I think is
Right.
really beautiful that we're given that chance to start striving in this moment. So it's a great reminder that we have the opportunity to turn towards him, and he's the one who even gave it to us in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful. So he gives us the opportunity, and that's why the church gives us these opportunities of like, that's why we kind of run in a cycle. So we have these moments in the year where we can truly like set our mind back onto Christ. And that's why we wanted to push reclaiming the season, you know, and hopefully we did that justice. But we have to remember that we can't just go about life kind of wishy-washy in our faith, but we have to set specific times. Well, we should always be turning to God first off, but we have to set specific times to look and evaluate ourselves and say, hey, you know, I should be doing better. And then we start on this gradual build up, build up, build up, build up, and we celebrate the nativity, and we remember the beautiful things that happened in a physical moment. You know, it's not some tall tale. This is the truth. It's happened, you know, and we have to remember these things. And the same with Pascha, you know, the church gives us Great Lent, and we're able to turn back to ourselves and say, hey, I'm broken, and turn to Christ to feel the brokenness of our souls and return back to him to then celebrate the glorious miracles that he has done for us.
And when we think about how long ago the nativity happened compared to now, right? Like over 2000 years ago, you
Mm.
know, the church in her wisdom doesn't let us forget that. The
Right.
truth of the nativity is everlasting, and we're reminded of it every year.
Mhm.
Um, if not, I mean, every day, but we do have this feast that we get to celebrate every year at a certain time. And it's a reminder. It doesn't let it, sink into the past, into oblivion. We get to be reminded of this in such a beautiful feast every year. And I know I love going to church for the nativity. It's just, you can feel the joy around you. I feel like in some ways it's a different joy than the joy of the resurrection. I feel like this one, there's this, you feel like it's a new beginning, and
Mhm.
the resurrection is another new beginning. But this is kind of the first moment of almost hope, I would say.
Right. No, yeah, that's I think that's the perfect way to just kind of end all that we've been doing with the Nativity this week. The Nativity truly is it's the beam of hope that kind of illumines the world in its darkness at its time and should still illumine the darkness within us every days of our lives, especially as we look to celebrate in the upcoming days.
Definitely. And with the nativity and with that, the end of Reclaim the Season, I guess we, as always, remember that God is enough, especially when He